Hello, friends. Recently I read Medgar and Myrlie Evers by Joy and Reid, and I give this book a 3-4 out of 5. And here's why. So, I am Camille Claiborne, your favorite book club moderator. Recently I read Medgar and Myrlie Evers, um, The Love Story That Awakened America by Joy and Reid, and I give this book a 3-4 out of 5. And here's why. So this book was about the love story of civil rights activist Medgar Evers and his wife Myrlie Evers. These two met while students at Alcorn State University. So the book profiles their relationship as college students, and then continues on as they become a married couple and eventually parents. Detailing the trouble periods within their marriage, um, which was, a lot of their difficulties emanated from the fact that he was this civil rights activist who dedicated so much of his time and money to the movement. I wanted to share a passage with you related to that. So setting the scene, Marley and Medgar are having a disagreement regarding finances. So he is traveling quite a bit with the movement, and he is also hosting people at their home, having to feed and shelter them, and they're having a hard time financially. Well, Marley is having a hard time financially keeping up with things. Marley says, but I do believe that he was that determined to take the path of civil rights and leave his family. I will always believe that. It was a calling to him. I didn't have another woman to be jealous of, she said. I had a cause. Um, I think this book did a good job of discussing their lives prior to meeting each other. And because I was kind of touched by Myrlie Evers' upbringing, right? Because she, was raised by an aunt and a grandmom, um, and her mother was sort of a young, not sort of, was a young person, and they had not a difficult relationship, but sort of an estrangement for quite a while because it was really her grandmother and aunt who raised her. So I appreciated just knowing more of Myrlie's and Medgar's backgrounds. Um, Reading through this book, though, you are reminded of all the sacrifices that so many civil rights leaders made, right? Of course, many of them made the ultimate sacrifice, which was their lives and that they were assassinated. But even prior to that, giving up spending time with their children, with their family, and we know that civil rights leaders aren't that isn't a lucrative, profession to be in. And so they make a lot of financial sacrifices too to be these leaders. So I think that you couldn't help but feel empathy for both their sides, right? Because I'm certainly happy that Medgar continued to fight and to be a civil rights leader. But you understood maybe Murley's point in wanting him to maybe not not be a civil rights activist and be more of a family person. Um, the book at times did read like a textbook, which is sort of why I gave it the split score. But I did enjoy the history lesson that it provided. She goes into detail about the atrocities and adversities African Americans felt, endured at that time. Just being able to register to vote or being members of civic organizations. The fact that somebody could, like, you could lose your job for just being a member, right? Not even an active member, but just a member of the NAACP was news to me. So a passage that relates to that, I'm going to share with you all. But setting the scene, they live in a cul-de-sac or a community of Black professionals, and Medgar was trying to get his neighbors registered as active members in the NAACP and trying to also encourage them to attend some of the protests that he was organizing locally. So some of them were just not willing to. So here's the quote. They didn't want to lose their jobs or their mortgages to Citizens Council retribution on behalf of Medgar's cause. Some of them began to keep their distance from Medgar and even from Myrlie. The Evers lost some friends, though her closest friends on the block hung in, and she continued to play at Normancy at the block's garden party. So the book did a wonderful job of profiling both Medgar and Myrlie Evers. She goes on, so Myrlie Evers goes on to live a pretty full life after her husband is deceased. Certainly, she continues his work and his legacy, but she also kind of paves her own path, which I found was really cool. Things I didn't know: Joy Reid goes into Myrlie's relationship with Coretta Scott King and Betty Shabazz, and that these women would sometimes get together for retreats and spoke often and encouraged each other. So I thought that that was, something I did not know, and I enjoyed reading about. So if you have the time, check out Medgar and Myrlie Evers, A Love Story That Awakened America by Joy Reid. I'm sure you will love the book just as much as I have. Happy reading, friends.